Hey folks, yes, we have audio. Oh my life, the release. This is good. So the other one is still on at the moment. What I'm gonna do is pin that and then end stream. End. Sorry everybody. Well, that was interesting. I will just say you're really lucky because Bobby was freaking hacking away the whole time. I don't know what happened there, but what I can tell you is YouTube has been giving me no end of grief over the last few months since returning home. So maybe you want to ask some questions about YouTube and I can answer happily and honestly. I'm just going to close the door because I need to do that and then I'll be with you. Also, you know that classic thing of when you're at work, right, and you work from home, you can wear what you want on the top because you look like, oh, yes, I've been working since 2 a.m. this morning. But the secret is, I am in my pajamas. Shh, don't tell anyone. Anyway, welcome to this YouTube live session. We've lost like at least half the audience, unfortunately, but hopefully this will notify people. Can we have sound? It seems like we all have sound. That's good. Anybody else having sound problems? I can see on the sound monitor here that I have sound. Also, I am sat here with myself, so I have sound. Can you do me a massive favor? Because YouTube is going to wreak havoc with my life, as always. Can you click like on this video? That would be really helpful. And then that's also going to push it to subscribers who are already subscribed to my channel and make sure they see this and they are able to join this evening as we are live. I would be really, really grateful for that. Now Robert wants to go out of the room. Oh, my life. You know, the thing with these live sessions... I say bubble wrap because I need to be wrapped in bubble wrap because they fill me with no end of stress. For those of you who have subscribed to my newsletter, Robert. For those of you who have subscribed to my newsletter, you will have seen that I sort of anticipated an error. Every single time I schedule a session, Robert coughs. Something goes wrong. I'm just going to kick him out. Also, 1 second. Welcome to my life. Right, you. Go on. Go to mommy. Go on. Out. Out. And we're back. Oh my gosh. How do you click like? That's a great question. So you should probably watching this on YouTube. So you've got the video and you've got the feed on the side. So underneath the bottom of that, there should be a like button. Yes, thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Should we try this again? Welcome. Do you know what I wanted to just say then? Welcome to the Great British Bake Off. Oh, man. Now, welcome to this evening's live session. 11 minutes late, but there we go. We got there in the end. I don't know what happened with the audio there, but I'm very glad that we are all here together, as Charlie Mackesy would say in his wonderful book. I'm glad we're all here together. So I am here specifically to talk about Mont Blanc and Gran Paradiso in Italia. Basically following the release of my film on Monday, which has been a resounding success, I have to say. Absolutely chuffed to bits, over the moon with how that's been going. And whilst Rachel, apparently on the side, is not all here, hopefully we are all here. Thumbs up. Actually, no, let's not do thumbs up. This emoji, if you're in your pajamas as well. And peace emoji if you're not yet in your pajamas because you're just freaking rocking life. So well done. That'd be super, super cool. And please let me know on the side where you're tuning in from. Maybe one word to summarize your thoughts and feelings around the Mont Blanc film. That'd be super, super cool. And what I would just say from the off is that if you have questions, please ask them in capital letters. It does look like you're shouting at me, but I will not take offense. It just means I can decipher on the side. Generally speaking, as these live sessions go, I don't look at the side whilst I'm talking, which I'm trying not to do right now. Because my brain goes do, 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 do. And I'm trying to talk and it doesn't work together, which is what is happening exactly now as I'm explaining what's happening. But welcome to this live session. So yes, please ask questions in capitals. The beginning of these sessions is always a bit of a just wibbly waffly part from me. You could argue the whole thing is that. It is, you know, very debatable. The dog now wants to come back in. Robert. Okay, he now has a parent. That's great. Yes, so now we can all breathe. That's wonderful. Have a sip of tea if you have it. Good tea, that. And arrive in the session. So I want to just first of all say I'm so grateful for all of you for tuning in this evening. These live sessions are always a very vulnerable thing. They're completely unedited. How can they possibly be edited? You can see all of the carnage of YouTube and life and dog. But I kind of love that. And I feel like I've really grown to love these live sessions. And it's always a real treat to be able to do them. I never know who's going to tune in, never know what you're going to ask. And it's a really nice way for me to be able to interact with you guys and sort of give something back in a sense of a thanks for tuning in to my channel and everything that I'm all about. So if you are new here, I feel like it's always nice to just give a little spiel about who I am and what I'm about. So my name's Abbie. I live in a hat. And I basically spend my life promoting the power of nature in terms of a place that we can use to improve our mental and physical well-being and to bring a sense of meaning and purpose into our lives, whether that's through connection with nature or through nature as the vessel for bringing people together. So I make films, and I've been making films full-time since 2018, but I've been making them since I was 13, which is now over half my life. When did that happen, anybody? Like, what? Yeah, but then also I lead walks up and down the country. Most months I've got a walk going on. The next walk is the New Year's Day walk, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later. And I can write for magazines. I give talks to different workplaces or groups like scout groups. And then I have YouTube and I make these films documenting my journeys, which are often quite vulnerable because I too struggle with my mental health, or certainly, you know, fight for the cause of staying on top of my mental health. And I experienced chronic pain as well through what seems to be now a psychosomatic injury from my neck to sort of the center of my back. And I just pulled my t-shirt, never mind. So yeah, I share my journey of those basically and how nature helps me, and hopefully then it helps you. And it's all about the love, essentially, the positive ripple effect. So my most recent upload was Bish Bash Bosh, Mont Blanc and Gran Paradiso. So this was in partnership with Adventure Base. I'm very transparent about the fact that they offered me a place on their trip for free, which was fantastic and enabled me to experience this lifelong dream. Basically, after that, they just sort of left me to it and just said, tell your story, do your thing. And I did that. And I'm really, really proud of the outcome. I'm so annoyed though, because yesterday I was doing some work for my 2023 highlights video, which is a job in itself where I go through absolutely every single shot that I have, which is at least 3 terabytes worth of footage. Sorry. Yeah, I noticed I missed out some very crucial shots that Nacho, one of the guides, filmed. I'm so frustrated because they're really good shots and I wanted to get them in. And then Anna, bless her, watched it yesterday and she found a typo. I'm like, no, you put so much work into these things. You expect them to be perfect, but I am only human, so I make mistakes. And so here we are to talk about, not my mistakes, but the success that was the Mont Blanc trip. It was a phenomenal experience. It was really hard. It was really exhausting. I think it's have I ever been that crippled by self-doubt? I don't think I have, actually. Yeah, it was really, really hard, like, to stay in a place of belief. And, you know, so often I'm in these experiences and I'm kind of head down, get the job done. Like, I love the experience. It's amazing. And nature does pull me forwards. But this trip was so different in that it was so raw. I just need some, there we go. And, you know, there was a real regimented routine to it, and everything was just so different. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop waffling on and just have a look and see some of these questions, because I see there's a few questions popping up. And then, yeah, we'll just hang out here on some questions and then I'll wrap it up with a few little updates for you folks to just remind you there's some very practical things you can get stuck into in the next actually couple of flipping days. Like, how are we on the 17th of December? Also, when did that happen? Time. Okay, so Russell Cooper is asking, does Mont Blanc lose its snow cap in the summer? No, it does not. Mont Blanc means basically the White Mountain, so Monte Bianco in Italy. Mont Blanc, the Massif, is actually, it sort of straddles 3 countries. So it's France, Italy, and Switzerland. Hence, the Tour de Mont Blanc goes through all 3 countries, walking around the Massif. And at all months of the year, you can look up and you can see the snow. Now, what is happening more and more is absolutely, you know, there's warmer climates. The Alps in particular, as I mentioned in the film, is experiencing one of the fastest rates of glacier melts and snow melts in the world. Everything is just slightly off, and then, you know, that impacts endemic species, it impacts the water cycle, impacts everything. Like, let's not go into that, even though I just did. But yeah, the warmer temperatures means that lower down sort of that margin, so you're above the tree line, but you're not quite on the snow in amongst the glaciers. There's a lot more rockfall. The glaciers are melting, but no, the top of Snont Blanc, that's a good one. Top of Mont Blanc stays white all year round. I think that's a really good question, actually. Unlike Toubkal, for example, which is the highest mountain in the Atlas Mountains, so Morocco, that does lose all of the snow. Kilimanjaro, there's a little glacier on top. Sorry, I wasn't sure what was happening then. Yeah, a little glacier on top, but that's very, very rapidly retreating. That doesn't stay white. So it is sort of in the Alps that the mountains are still staying white. But I think it also really does depend on sort of the literal dome shape of Mont Blanc. There's a lot of surface area for snow and ice to stick to, whereas something like the Matterhorn, which is much more vertical, it's just a rock face, so it's, you know, more likely to slump off. Don't forget, folks, if you're asking questions, please keep them in capitals. It just sort of helps me to filter through a wee bit quicker with my weird, dodgy mind. Eyes, my eyes. Oh my gosh. Jan, hello, Jan, is asking, what is your definition of courage? Has it changed since your Mont Blanc experience? Fucking awesome question, Jan. I like that a lot. Oh, great. Now I actually have to think. I've already just said I have a dodgy mind, so this is going well this evening, isn't it? Definition of courage. You know what I would say from the off is when you're being brave, so essentially courageous, you don't feel it. It's something, at least for me, I've experienced afterwards. Like, there's definitely a time where, you know, you're sort of in the pain cave and you just got to get your head down and persevere and tap into that mental strength or physical strength, depending on which one, you know, is triumphing in that moment, and make yourself do the thing. But I would say courage is perseverance courage is perseverance in the presence of fear. There we go. Boom. That made me sound clever, didn't it? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know. Perseverance in the presence of fear. Because it's like, you have an obstacle, you have a barrier. Quite often it's fear. And fear is always so much worse in our mind than we actually think, or than it actually is physically around us. So the obstacle is our mind. And then when we choose courage, we're working through that fear. We're persevering. We're showing up with consistency and intentionality. And that is courage, because you can't be courageous by accident. It is a pure intentional thing. And that's what I mean by that grit and that determination. So in a really waffly way that does not fit in the Collins dictionary, that is what I'm going to go for. Courage is the perseverance through fear. Maybe that's a film name. I feel cool. That was great. So has it changed since the Mont Blanc experience? I wouldn't say that. What, as I've already alluded to, what surprised me the most about the Mont Blanc experience was just how much I was suffering with self-doubt. I was not feeling well, and I don't even think that comes across very great in the film. Like, I can say I did have a little bit of a mask. And I think a lot of that was the fact that I wasn't in my own space. I couldn't just sort of have that little meltdown or hibernate and throw my pen away in my tent and just sort of, you know, do what I needed to do, because I was 24 hours a day, like physically attached to other people, all in the same room in a bed that's just a long bed. other than sort of the time where we went back down to Chamonix. But for the bulk of that, I was sharing a room. And I did find that quite difficult because for me to recharge, I need to be in my own space. It's just sort of who I am and how I've learned to deal with things. So I suppose I'm very proud of the courage that I had to put in. It did require courage, but certainly not in the way I expected. And do you know what? In the research of this film, when I was scripting it, scripting is a very big job. You know, I'm fact checking everything and I'm going through on like fat maps and stuff on Google. And I was going up Mont Blanc on fat maps. Like, you know, you can put the little man and then you can walk up. And I'm just looking at it like, man, that is so flipping steep. And I have to say, like, I felt genuine fear when we were walking up in that wind. The point before Lars says, you know, we've got to pull the plug with this thing. I was feeling fear. I was feeling like this is a bit much here, and I hope we're not pushing through. So, no, I wouldn't say my experience, my definition of courage has changed since then, but I would say that all of these experiences that you have to be courageous, they build on top of each other and they make you a more resilient person because, you know, if you've done something once, why can't you do it again? It's just a battle of the mind. And I think so often, you know, I talk about in these sessions a lot, like so often it's our minds that let us slip. You know, you've got to, if you say you're going to do something, you've got to show up and do it. And I said I was going to climb Mont Blanc, and the parameter of that is the essential, the number one goal is to stay safe. The secondary goal is the summit of Mont Blanc. So we achieved our goal, which was to stay safe and get as high as we can on Mont Blanc. So I'm waffling here, but hopefully that's helpful. Thank you for that really wonderful question. All right, scrolling down. They see me scrolling. Some of these live sessions are so unpredictable. I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. Can you show us your ultras? You want to see my shoes? You want to see my shoes? I'll tell you something. I haven't worn them since Mont Blanc. I actually bought them in Chamonix. I was a bit nervous about wearing my Vivos, the Vivo barefoots. I'm not like brandy, like, oh, Vivos. I have other barefoot shoes as well. Yeah, and I didn't like, you probably saw in the park going up through the forest in Gran Paradiso, everybody else wore their B3 boots. So you saw as well fitting crampons. B3 boots they're very specific. They have a very stiff sole, which means you can, you know, keep a crampon attached, and they have that lip on the back. So the crampon clips in and then it's welded to your shoe. So you can't do that with any boot. It has to be a very specific B3 boot for mountaineering. And yeah, everyone else decided to wear their B3 boots up to the Refugio Chabot, and I did not, nor did Lars. I was willing to carry them. I was constantly being ribbed for how big my rucksack was. Lars told me off for bringing the tripod a lot, and I was like, mate, I'm flipping here to film. And I'm not going to lie, one thing I have edited out a lot is how stressed I was about filming this. There was very, very little space. I was just a participant, and there was hardly any space to take photos. And I'm trying to not elaborate on this too much. But if you want to know the truth, I can tell you the truth. I mean, you know, no one's paying me to be here. About that waffle. So yeah, that's that. How did the altitude affect you? Awesome question. Did you find your ability to think clearly was affected? Listen, my friend, Timbo, clearly my ability to think is affected right now at about 300 meters above sea level. So how was it at 3,000? I'm sure it was terrible. No, honestly, the altitude is a very big thing. It's something that you can't be naive about. I think a lot of folks are naive. And, you know, what I really allude to in this documentary is that there is a stereotype person who goes into the mountains and does this thing. Very machoistic. They're very sort of forward thinking. And if you don't reach the summit, you've failed. And I was surrounded by that. And I did not like that. A couple of the participants, the other clients, were sort of a bit more free thinking like me, which was really nice. But the reason why I say this is I was very aware of altitude because I know I suffer at altitude. So when I did Kilimanjaro 10 years ago next year, I suffered a lot with altitude. Probably like, oh, that was horrible. I don't need to do that again. And then Tubacal was the other time I was at altitude in Morocco. I've already mentioned that. Again, I suffered. The summit day for Tubacal was okay, but the next day we did a secondary peak, and my life, I was struggling to choose life. It just makes you feel horrendous. And what I can say is when I got back down from our summit push that day, everyone else sort of went downstairs and had a few beers, and I don't drink, so that's kind of like a bit of a downer for a lot of folks. But also I was like, nah, nah, nah. And I just like curled it like a hedgehog on my blanket or under my blanket on the bed. And like I had all of my clothes on. I was so cold and my head was pounding. And I honestly, I genuinely thought I was hypothermic. Like, you know, as an outdoor first aid trained person for the last 7 years or whatever, you really become aware of signs and symptoms in other people, but also in yourself. And I was getting really quite concerned at one point. But I also knew this is extreme exhaustion and very likely the altitude. You know, we're at 3,800 meters here. We're well into that altitude sickness space. So I can say it just made me feel very tired. I wouldn't say it affected my mental space so much. It did affect my appetite. I really was not hungry. That's just weird for me. But no, it wasn't as severe as Kilimanjaro was horrendous. Like I can't even express. Like it's like you have. It's almost like how can I even express it? I don't know, because we don't know what it's like an elephant sitting on our head, or being squeezed between a vise, or being under 1,000 meters of water. But it's that pressure. It's pressure, and that's just horrendous. So I did not experience that, which was a massive thumbs up. And I do not plan to experience that again in the near future. Did you get any vertigo? No vertigo for me. I suppose the only thing sort of equivalent I felt was sort of that point, as I just mentioned, where we were nearly at our personal summit points, where it was really windy, and I was just super aware that like, frick, I can't even stay upright. This is a battering. And yeah, I was super aware of falling, but I had an ice axe that didn't really concern me like too much. But then going down, unfortunately, the folks I was paired with in my group of 3 were very speed heady. Like it was, it upset me quite a lot. Because, you know, I'm there for this very wholesome experience, and they're just keen to get the fastest possible time for Strava, which is one of the things that made this so stressful, because you're literally roped up. You can't just stop and take a photo or do some video or anything. And that's why most of my monologues are at the end of the day, when I'm by myself and I can finally talk to you wonderful people. So when we were going down that Guta ridge, which we climbed up, you saw us sort of scrambling up. We freaking ran down that, man. We got down in under 2 hours. And that, like, I just felt like I was being pulled this way and that, because I literally was. The rope was tight, and it was, I found that quite hard. And I wouldn't say it was vertigo, but I think it was the first time I really became aware of the fact that I was tired and I felt like I could fall. But I also felt like I just had to put on a bit of a face, because, you know, the other 2 folks, they wanted to get their experience out of it, and I would have been holding them back if I sort of communicated that. That wasn't the first time that happened. It happened also a lot on the descent from Gran Paradiso. The pace was too fast, and sort of a few of us were just. I wasn't physically struggling with the descent on Gran Paradiso, but it was just like frustrating to not be able to actually enjoy and be present on the glacier. There was no rush to get down, except for the beers, apparently. And like, yeah, that I found very difficult. So, you know, I don't really feel like I document sort of the lows in this trip, but because they were very personal, you know, on a very professional level, we were extremely well looked after, and I felt very safe with Lars and Nacho. Nacho's freaking ledge. So, yeah, that's my question. So I wouldn't say it was vertigo, but sort of that falling and that spinning type sensation of exposure. I did sort of get something like that on the way down. Right, there we go. Now we're getting questions. Love it. How do you maintain your energy, physical and mental, on a difficult, challenging hike? So how I maintain my energy is, it's just like life, you know, like I was just talking about it with somebody, and it, like, I call it health hygiene. You know, I take great pride in performing on quite a high level when it comes to executing a task, and I take great pride in ensuring my energy that I'm putting out into the world or into something I'm creating is of use, of value. I don't want to just make noise. I struggle with some of the films that I filmed. Like, there's films I haven't even put out because I'm like, there's no soul in this. This is just a monopoly thing, and I'm not freaking here to make money. You have to make money off YouTube. It just does not happen. And so basically, the way I keep on top of all of these things, both on and off the trail, is I focus on my health hygiene. So I ensure I'm getting as much sleep as I possibly can, as my body needs, which is, you know, always extremely limited when you're on a trip for whatever reason, environmental or mental or whatever. But just doing the best that I can, you know, having some kind of routine, is staying hydrated, it's staying on top of my nutrition and making sure I'm eating good stuff. Like, there's various folks in my life who take the mick out of me about how many different things I take to an expedition. But do you know what? Having my multivitamins, having my electrolyte powder, having snacks that I know actually work for my body, that gives me up for success. Like, yeah, I can just go and eat the white bread that everybody else eats that's given by the refugios, but that's not going to make me feel good. And I take responsibility for that. And I take that very seriously because, again, I stand by the fact that we have one life and you want to feel good for it. So I feel like, you know, it can seem a bit difficult to some people, or like I'm being a little bit pedantic, but I'm really not. I'm just looking after myself. And it's nothing really to do with anybody else. But no, that's something that's really important to me. And, you know, if you want to find out a little bit more about some of those things, I made a really unsnappy 5-step self-care check-in video, which went out about a month ago. And you can find that on my channel under sort of tips and advice. And I basically share 5 letters. I think it's HHFPI, something like that. I've forgotten. My brain is so full. I'm so sorry. Yeah, and it's basically, you know, it's hunger, hydration. Oh no, here we go. Fatigue, inspiration, and pain. Ha, posh. And all of those things are basically what they mean, and how you can check in with yourself. So that's essentially what I do. So I hope that helps with that question. Did Adventure Base put your kit together or give you a detailed list? Adventure Base, bless them. The most loving, amazing company. You know me, I'm authentic. I'm not going to recommend something that I don't believe in. I didn't get paid for this trip. I was just given that free space. You know, so I am not obliged to say anything I don't want to say, but I can tell you that they're a very small team. They're absolutely lovely. They're all lovers of the outdoors. They have been so patient with me. I've been able to be really honest, you know, in the build up to the trip about sort of my own mental space. As you know, I was on the oat route before and I pulled the plug, and I messaged them like, I'm really not sure about this. And they were like, cool, if you want to postpone, whatever. They were very kind, much kinder than I am, clearly. But the reason why I say bless them is I accidentally got missed off the emailing list. So I was really quite in the blind as to kit and stuff. So I just sort of defaulted back to my, like, what I know, essentially. So that was kind of a little bit tricky and definitely added to my gear stress. But no, ordinarily you get a full-on kit list, and they're just there, like, able to help if you've got any questions. But, you know, mountaineering kit, it's basically hiking kit on steroids. Like, it's thicker layers, it's more layers, it's bulkier stuff, but it's also trying to keep it as light as possible, which completely is very confusing, and that's what's quite difficult. And I think, you know, on the one hand, I'm worried about, you know, making sure you're warm enough, but the other hand is you don't want to be over warm, because sweating is then very life threatening, because then you cool down and you've got this liquid on your skin and you can end up, again, hypothermic. So it's much more almost serious than trekking, in a sense of the consequences are harsher. So you've got to get it right. So for example, I haven't got it here, have I? No, I have a Norwegian wool pullover that I'm wearing all the freaking time because this house is cold, except from now, because I'm emotionally stressed that I didn't get the session right at the beginning. But I knew that was going to be too warm for me, so I didn't wear that. So there is a lot of thought that needs to go into your layering for mountaineering. And I have to say, you know, in my own research for this Mont Blanc trip, I did get quite frustrated because there's, again, if you search Mont Blanc climb, there's a lot of people like, oh, I did this with no experience. Oh, I did this solo. And it's like, well, you're freaking lucky you're not dead then, like, to just put it simply. Like, it's so frustrating because you saw what happened at the end of this film. Somebody died. He was arguably not being cared by his guide because he wasn't roped in. And every time somebody puts themselves at risk, you're not only putting yourself at risk, but a whole chain effect of people. And it's negligence, it's selfishness. It's not machoism, it's stupidity. And it frustrates me. So why am I ranting about this now? I don't even know. Oh, detailed kit list. Be prepared, folks. Let's move on. This rant are happening today. I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay, anyway. What was the hardest part and how much did the altitude affect you? Right, we talked about altitude, so thanks, Chris. The hardest part, other than getting up in the morning, my life, and dealing with the stinky toilets in the Teta Roos hut. Man, I thought the toilets on Kilimanjaro were bad. Like, that was some pong. Hardest part. I think just overcoming my self-doubt. Like, physically, I can be honest, the day to the summit, I was pretty spent. I had more in the tank and I could have done it, but my gosh, I think you'd have to put me in a barrel to get me down the mountain. But no, it was just, as always, it's that mental barrier. Yeah, and then the next question I see, Melissa is asking, how did you prepare mentally and physically? Physically, I prepared by freaking running up and down hills. Do not recommend that. No, I do. It's great. It made me work through tough stuff. Just basically doing something that sucks every single day. I think as modern humans, again, I rant about this so much in these live sessions. You know, I think we really condition ourselves that life is supposed to be comfortable and cozy because we deserve it, and I've worked hard for this. But it's just like you're not doing yourself any favors by living the good life. Like, it's when you add a bit of suck into every single day, whether that's through training or doing something that you don't want to do because it's a little bit difficult and it requires you to actually dial in and, you know, put the hours in. That's what makes you stronger. And when it comes to a trip like this, that's what I was really focusing on, was just every day having a goal that I knew was going to challenge me and making sure I showed up for that and did what I said I was going to do. And that's how I built sort of my mental resilience. But, you know, I don't think it made it into the film. But one of the things I say in my audio diaries, because I keep audio diaries on all of my trails every single day, recorded live on the trail, that then released onto my Patreon platform for my Patreon members and community. I talk about the fact that, you know, Mont Blanc really felt like an amalgamation of everything I've learned since I started hiking in 2012. So I feel like I've been preparing for this trip since I started hiking, if that makes sense. Everything I've learned, all of the mistakes I've made, all the masked to manifesting this trip in the successful way that it played out. So that's that. Was it everything you expected and hoped it to be? I don't think I had any expectations. The one thing I can say was that I found Gran Paradiso amazing. I think it's so funny because you click on you book a Mont Blanc trip and you sort of everything's about Mont Blanc. Oh yeah, Mont Blanc this, Mont Blanc that. Have you got this for Mont Blanc? Did you do that? No. And Gran Paradiso, poor little mountain. It's not a little mountain at all. Just kind of gets pushed on the back burner as something you have to do and box you have to tick. But it was an amazing experience, and that was far more than I ever expected it could be. And honestly, just doing Gran Paradiso would have been like fan dabby dozy. So I can say that far surpassed expectations. And then the trip itself, I don't know if you guys ever experienced this, and maybe it's just the fast-paced life that I live. But sometimes I have like a really amazing experience and I sort of come back and I almost get really detached from it. And I'm like, did that really happen? Like, even though I have a film and I'm editing it and it's me, it doesn't feel like me. And it's like, some trips I have a really visceral memory of what I experienced, and then some trips I don't. And sometimes I think it boils down to being really tired. But like, sometimes I can't relate to the person I'm seeing on the screen. Maybe it's to do with like this life and then the trail life. I don't really know, but I feel quite detached from the experience. But I know I did it because there's a film. So that's cool. Yeah, but it was an amazing trip, and whatever my expectations were, I am just really glad to be alive. So that's cool. All right, we've got some good questions here. Favorite part of the trip. Well, the pizza at the end was pretty good, actually. No, do you know what? My favorite part of the trip was once we made it back down, and I've recovered from my hypothermic state, and I came out to do that end piece, and you see all of those shots. I really enjoyed that. It was really, really cold. It's like -15 out there, and I'm just there in Crocs, and I'm just laughing at myself because no one else is being stupid enough to come outside. But I want to film this because I'm thinking of you guys. And, you know, in the most weirdest, wildest places, I end up by myself, and I'm thinking of you guys. And that's my favorite part, because I'm like, this is what it is to have purpose. You know, this is what it is to have a sense of meaning. And what an amazing thing that I have found that in you folks and in these films. And you probably maybe saw the shot. I highly recommend going back if you haven't. But there was a sundog. So as the sun was setting, you could see the sun here in the clouds, and then you had these two rainbows either side. So you can get two rainbows, or you can get sort of a whole halo. And they're called sundogs, and it's sort of about the refraction of the light and the ice crystals in the air. And yeah, I always love to see those, and it sort of reminds me of all the other places that I've seen them. And that was a very special moment to just digest and know that life is good, you know. Did you feel okay, guys? I'm going to go for another sort of 10 minutes, I think, and then I will release you all back into the wilderness. Did you feel more pressure knowing you were making a documentary of doing it, Abbie? Awesome question. Yes, I did. One thing I've really felt this year is the pressure of making these films, because whilst I'm doing less, I'm doing so much more. You've probably noticed I'm not really doing day walks and stuff at the moment. I'm doing very few kit reviews and things. And it's because I'm really trying to dial in, have quality production. I'd much rather put more work into something that can really change somebody's life, as I say, than just doing a repeated thing of another walk, another walk, another walk. Like, I'm not out for a quick bang for buck here. I am producing a documentary film. Like, this is a high quality piece of work that requires like hours and hours and hours and hours, and then a few more. And I do feel the pressure of that because I want to do it properly. And I do have a bit of a motto: if you can't do it right, don't do it. For myself, not for anyone else, because I can learn through mistakes. And when I'm on the trail, I know exactly what I need to do. Like, I'm good at this. I've built a career out of this. And when I don't meet my own expectations, it can be really difficult. And because of sort of that fast pace, not really being in control of anything experience, I was really worried. I think my dad's tuned in on here. You'll see him under David Barnes. Like, I'm on the phone to him, just like, I can't make a film out of this footage. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, I felt like I came away with very minimal content, because it was just point and shoot, and I don't do that. Everything there's a script in my head the whole way that I'm building when I'm out there on the trip. But this time I really wasn't able to do that because I had no idea what was going to happen, and I wasn't in control of anything. But that is the beauty of editing, and that's the beauty of reflection, is that you can build something after a trip. And I did, and it is an accurate representation of what happens, and actually the footage is much better than I thought. There are some amazing moments that happened that I wish I'd captured, but I wasn't able to, for whatever reason, whether the camera died or whatever it was. Like, for example, where I say, oh, and then the camera died as we were going up the Guta Ridge. Like, oh my gosh, if that was the one shot I got, I think I would have been happy. We sort of came up, right? So there's the old Guta hut, because it burnt down. Let's not talk about that disaster. It's terrible. And you sort of come up the steps, and then you round the top of the dome, and then it's just boom, daylight. And it was so amazing. Like, that moment of, you've just been in the shade and the snow, you've just put through hard graft of a few hours climbing, and then the sun, and it was stunning. And then it was just reflecting on all those like snow particles that were blowing about in the air, and you could see the Guta hut, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've made it, even though you're only halfway that day, but still. Not even halfway. But yeah, moments like that. But then the other side of it is, I really had to make a pact with myself that I'm in this for the experience, and then that's where Adventure Based was so fantastic, because I was transparent with them about my worries, and they said, do you know what? You get what you get, have the experience, tell your story however you can, and we're good with that. And I just think they're amazing for that. And I value a company that allows people to be themselves. So that was super, super cool. Yeah. I'm talking a lot today, aren't I? But I mean, that's kind of the point. It would be weird if I sat here and didn't talk. Any problems with your kit? Other than cameras? It's always camera problems. Cameras are the bane of my life, but they kind of create my career, so I kind of have to just deal with it. But cameras. Problems with my kit. No, not really. This was not a kit problem trip. I got a new rucksack. You can see I'm wearing the orange Mammoth rucksack. Normally I use my sort of grey Mammoth rucksack that you see in most of my day hiking videos. I love that pack to bits, but it just wasn't quite big enough or streamlined enough for this trip and what I needed to carry. The only thing I hated about that rucksack, and hate's a big word, but it was really inconvenient, was that the water bottle pockets on the side were too slim for any freaking water bottle. Even this wouldn't fit in it. Like, what is that? That's a freaking matchstick holder, not a water bottle holder. On that note, yeah, so that was very frustrating, and it meant I had to find a water bladder. And again, the reason why this is something you have to seriously think about is because it was minus 25, like water freezes. So having things on the outside, normally when you're at altitude or really cold temperatures, you have a bottle that's got very wide mouth. You know, those Nalgene bottles that have a wide mouth. And then it doesn't, you know, you can still get water out through the ice that freezes up. And then you can have your water bladder. But the problem with that is, A, you don't know how much you've got left. But if that freezes or the hose freezes, more likely to happen, you can't access any of that water, which is also a problem. And it's sort of minus 25, you don't really want to be having bare skin too much. As you saw, I got frost nip on my nose. Poor little nose. Yeah, so it was more of a problem than it seemed, because obviously hydration is key when you've got like a 2, 4, 6, at least 10-hour day. So yeah, that was that. But otherwise, now I think all was good. Thank you for asking. Okay, other questions that are in caps. How do you handle getting healthy food choices? Oh, hang on. Sorry. How do you handle, getting healthy food choices or lack of them on trips like this? I plan ahead, Jan. So I mentioned, you know, I know what works for my body. I am plant-based. Don't get me wrong, the odd bit of cheese slips in. But first of all, Italy is great foods. So I lived off polenta. Obviously, adventure-based Nuo was vegetarian, tends to be what I say when I'm international, because it's just so much easier. I don't think I could have been vegan on this trip. I don't think there was a possibility. And then, yeah, you know, you buy all your food along the way anyway. So I paid for all of those meals at the different refuges. So it was polenta. I had an omelette, which is vegetarian. It's so weird when you eat eggs and stuff when you haven't eaten them for like this many years, and then you do it, and your body just goes, "What are you doing? Did you mean to eat that?" Yeah, so that was that. And then, yeah, I take stuff up. I carry it with me. So again, that's why they were taking the mick out of me and my big rucksack. But it's like, mate, I know what I can carry. I'm good at carrying heavy stuff. And I did. So deal with that. So yeah, plan ahead. Yes, you're allowed another question. All right, I'm going to go for 5 more minutes, folks. And then that allows me time just to wrap this up for 7:30 UK time. Given the F and the risk, would you do another high-altitude Alpine climb? Yes, my friend, I would. I fear for my father, bless him, as his partner says, he's having kittens. Literally, none of us knew that Mont Blanc was so dangerous until I made it down. And then they flip and go and Google it, and it's like, oh, Mont Blanc's more dangerous than Everest. I'm like, well, thanks. So yeah, that happens. But no, you know, I don't underestimate the strain that not just this, but any trip puts on my family, people that care about me. You know, it is a lot, and I do have my struggles, and most of them don't make it on the camera, rightly so. So yeah, I think I'll give it some time. But actually, next year I am planning to go back to altitude at a trip I am more familiar with. So stay tuned for that. And actually, I'm just going to put it out there because you have to manifest the future, right? I am planning on being able to invite some of you guys along. There's going to be spaces for people to accompany me on a mountain, not in this country, not even in Europe. Oh, what are you going to do with that information? So yeah, actually, I'm going to put it out to my Patreon community first of all. Stay tuned for that update, and we'll go from there. But yeah, things are evolving here, folks. Like, I love doing these films. They're everything to me. They're an archive of my life and my journeys as much as anything else. But I am passionate about being able to empower you guys. And when you come on my wild walks, when you actually join those events, like, they are unlike anything else. Like, the walking is almost secondary. It's the community. It's the sense of fellowship and belonging that you will experience no matter who you are. You are welcome. And I'd like to just take that up a level, basically. Literally, not here, but here. So anyway, that's that. Okay, last few questions. We got 1, 2, and then if anyone wants to jump in with a third, feel free. It's yours. If not, no worries. I'll just be here all alone. It's fine. Okay, so last couple of questions. Sam is asking, do you feel any anticlimax when any of your adventures is over? Yes, Sam, I do. It's really hard, actually. I feel like I'm still lamenting the end of the season. Some nights I lie in bed and I sort of go through particular trails in my head and sort of remember them. It's particularly like really like life affirming ones. But yeah, it can be really hard because I love who I am on the trail actually. And I love the pace of that, and I love exploring, and I love the new things every day, and it is tiring and it is hard, but a lot of that actually is the filming. You know, I am working out there and I work really hard, and I don't call the day done until that's done. Usually it's pitch black and I'm doing my Patreon recording, and bless the lovely listeners, but I'm just there like yawning a million times. It's a running joke, like how many times can I yawn in an audio diary? But yeah, I do. I would say I still am. And probably part of how I deal with that is by going and doing another hike. So, you know, that's how it goes. Yeah, and it can be quite a lonely feeling actually. And I want to make a film sort of called How Do You Deal with Post-Expedition Blues? Because, you know, whether you're walking the West Highland Way or you're going and doing your first overnight camp, you know, expedition blues, as they call them officially, are not an unreal thing. Like they are real, and they, you know, it can be really hard. But there are ways of dealing with it that aren't just sort of numbing yourself, because if you numb one emotion, you numb all of them. That's not a wise thing to do. So yeah, keep an eye out for that video. It's kind of good to know that there's interest. But if you are feeling that after any of the trips this year, you know, I do see you. I know how it is. But what I always say is try and bring who you are on the trail to who you are at home. And I say that in the film as well, I think, don't I? It's the best gift we can give the world is ourselves. And sometimes the world can't handle that. And we hide ourselves away. But if we can let ourselves out on the trail, we can do it here as well, because life is just like the trail if you choose to see it that way. And it is a mind shift, and that takes a while, but you can do it. I know you can. Cool. It's very deep and heartfelt. Have you ever thought about trekking Nepal? Yes. Abbie, you shouldn't feel pressure to film when you don't feel like it. Sometimes taking a break to recharge means you'll be so much better and efficient when you return. I really appreciate that, Aisha. Thank you so much. There's definite truth in that. My recharge has to come when I'm home, though, not on an expedition, because I'm there to do a job. But absolutely, I steal those moments. Thank goodness for Disney Plus, being able to download things offline. And I just tuck myself away and I'm like, I'm going to watch some Ice Age now. No, what did I watch? When I was in the Kungsleden, I watched one thing. I was really rubbish. You'll see it in the film. And I freaking watched Monsters University, and it was just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be eaten by a bear because I'm watching Monsters University. See, I'm normal. So that's that. Oh gosh, this is a good session. Thank you for all these very lovely comments. You guys are an amazing bunch today. I like you all very much. Abbie's Wise Walks are amazing to be experienced. Thank you, Rachel. Woo! Some people wear 3 different wild shirts at once. This is very true. All right, last question. Nadia is asking, how would you summarize your trip? That seems like a very fitting place to end, doesn't it? How would I summarize my trip? Congratulations, you made me be quiet. Oh man. I would say it was great. No, I wouldn't say that. Well, it was. Do you know what? It's really hard because I come back from these trips and I hit the ground running. Like I had a really quick, I think, what was it, half a week turnaround before I was off onto the Kungsleden. So the digesting time hadn't really happened. Life affirming. You know, like it's one thing to talk about achieving your goals. It's another to actually do them. And this year I've achieved a lot of goals. And the Mont Blanc was one of them. I said I was going to do something and I did it. And it was life affirming, and it's really nice to do those things that you say you want to do. And yeah, sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes 4 years, sometimes it takes 10 years. You know, maybe you're thinking about whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be an expedition. It's something in life, but you know, you have to sit down and plan and actually make these things happen. If you don't give them the time of day, they're not going to happen. You can't just accidentally fall into a trip. Like I put the work in to build these connections and make this thing happen. They didn't email me. I built this from day one, And that happened when I was on the Tour de Mont Blanc. So that's why it's life affirming, because you're seeing that linear process. The person I was in 2019 when I did the Tour de Mont Blanc is so different to who I am now, but equally as beautiful. But the journey between then has been like this, but I've showed up for it every single day. And I couldn't have got to Mont Blanc if I hadn't done the Tour de Mont Blanc and everything in between. Does that make sense? So it just really affirms the journey I've been on, and the fact that, yeah, you know what, like, I've put in the work and it's enabled me to get to this place and have this amazing experience and have this really beautiful film that I really hope that has genuinely inspired you guys to know that whatever your dreams are, they might not be happening tomorrow, but, you know, keep showing up for them because they're real. If they matter to you, then they're worth making happen. Like, life is short. Don't wait forever. That's where you have to be courageous. You know, what did I say it was? Perseverance through fear. So often it's fear that holds us back. And it's fear holds me back. There's a few really big emails I need to send that I'm not being courageous and sending. So yeah, that's something that's just that I've really taken away from that. And I think I can say that about free trips this year, really life affirming, but it's because I've given them 100% and I've shown up for myself. And I've shown up for my channel. So when I say myself, it's it's you guys, it's this platform, it's this mission, and this is what I want to be remembered for. You know, I'm 27 and I'm thinking about a legacy, but it's because that's just what I want to do. So yeah, that's kind of that. Boom. That's what is it? Mic drop. I wasn't even using a mic, pointing a pen. Hello, hello. Right, folks. So I'm going to wrap this up with the Mont Blanc things. And there's just a few things I want to remind you of and invite you to join if you would like to, not stab you with a pen because that was weird. Sorry, I'm suffering a lot of my elbow. I think I mentioned I had a diving accident and it's really sore. Yeah, I've had a few accidents in the last month. Also, my hand got squashed and the tendon here is still very, very uncomfortable. So this arm is just a bit like, so anyway, 21st of December, for those of you who are brave souls and wish to join me on a grand expedition to your garden, you're welcome to join me on the Great Garden Campout. So the 21st, I don't even know what day that is. What day is that? Is a day coming soon to you. It's a Thursday. The Thursday is a working day for most of us. Every day's a work day for me, anyway. So I'm going to be going live again. You can join me on YouTube. And basically, the Great Garden Campout is something I established in 2020 with the goal of having ordinary adventures on our backyards, aka gardens or living room if you don't have a garden. So basically, all over the world in 2020, we had a few Great Garden Campouts. People came together and basically put their tent up in their garden or in their living room and made a blanket fort and camped out for the night and had a family adventure. And it's so freaking fun. So I decided, why not do a winter solstice wild garden campout? You could ask, why did you decide that? It's winter. And I am asking myself that. And I did ask, does my van count? No, it does not. Tony, that involves you too. Get out of your van into a tent. Tony is a great friend of mine who I think is here somewhere. So yes, get your tents out into your garden, have a little fire, and join me at live session. I think I'm going to go live at 7:30 on the 21st. So make a note of that in your diaries, on your hand. If you care that much, just don't wash it between now and Thursday. Oh my gosh, this is not good, is it? Yes, I am planning on having a big fire. There he is, look. I'm planning on having a big fire if the weather allows. So it literally will be hanging around the fire. Thumbs up for marshmallows. And yeah, just one of these live sessions, and then I'll sleep in my tent. I won't lie, if it's horrendous, I will potentially build a blanket fort with my little fam, including the wee dog. So please join, and you can share your pictures on social media. Thank you to everybody who has also been sharing their Wild Winter Photography Challenge pictures on social media. I've been inundated. It's really hard to stay on top of. So many of you basically every single day going outside, taking a photo of something in nature that makes you stop, pause, and feel grateful. Because winter is a time where it can be really hard to motivate ourselves to get outside. And you know what? It's working wonders for me as well. Just to get outside and take a snap of something, small things, big things, whatever it is, and tag me on social media. So when you go at Abbie Barnes, Wiles, or whatever it is on Facebook, I will then be able to see that and trace it, or you can put it in your stories and tag me in it there. So, yep, we've got however many days left of December. Keep going, folks. I believe in you. So that's that. And then the final last thing I will mention to you before I will love you and leave you is, first of all, I really need a drink, mate. I'm not drinking enough for this. is my next wild walk is going to be on New Year's Day. So this is a tradition. I think this is the 6th year now that I've done this. New Year's can be a tricky time for many folks, and it can be a really awesome time for many folks. But basically, the whole goal of my New Year's Day walk, which is on the Quantock Hills here in Somerset, is to basically come together on New Year's Day and really kickstart that new year with good vibes, with nature, with a walk, with good community. And hopefully some coffee and cake afterwards, because what is a walk without coffee and cake? So yeah, that's the plan. And there's still plenty of spaces on that if you would like to join. Don't worry, we don't start too early. So there's time to do what you need to do. But we'd love to welcome you guys on board with that one. And then the next walk will be in February. I'm just figuring out the dates at the moment. So yeah, I need to sort that out. Probably going to be the beginning of February, and that's Avebury, so also here in the southwest, in Wiltshire, in the UK, so you can join that one as well. But anyway, those are basically the few things you can get stuck into. So that's Great Garden Camp Out on the 21st. Be there or be square. Photography challenge. Keep taking pics. Keep sharing them on socials. Also, sorry, with the Great Garden Camp Out, I do have a Facebook group. There's not a lot going on there because I have had no time and capacity to really revamp that. But I will send that again in my newsletter, which I'll send on the 20th, 3 days time. And if you want to join that, please feel free. I know not everybody's on social media. There's not much I can do about it. I don't have any other platform to enable you guys to come together. So yeah, Facebook group, photography challenge, and New Year's Day wild walk. Would love to see you there. That is a wrap, people. I want to say thank you so much. We'll be seeing each other on the 21st, so we can do all Christmas handshakes, hugs, all that there and then. So yeah, love it. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm a bit talked out now. Man, I was on the spin bike. I think I went faster with my talking than the spin bike. Oh, I need some dinner. What have you guys all got for dinner? Also, since when did I call it dinner? It's tea. the debate is out. Right, folks, that's enough from me. Thanks for being awesome. Thanks for being wild. Thanks for tuning in. Look after yourself. Have a look on my website. Have a look on my socials. There's always things to get stuck in. Share the videos. Please, please, please. That's the number one thing you can do for this channel, is share this video so people click it and they watch it. YouTube is not being a friend to many creators at the moment. The algorithm is so anti our stuff. So the more you can share things, the more that really helps. Take screenshots, put them on social media, anything you can do like that. Honestly, it is the future of people like me. It's in your hands, not mine. I put in the work, but it's down to YouTube, and YouTube needs people to be proactive. So anything you can do is amazing. So yeah, thank you. And until next time, what do we do? 3, 2, 1. Stay wild. Yeah. Whoop, whoop. I can't go any higher than that. Cool, thanks. Have a good evening. Bye.